We're so glad you're watching The Catholic View for Women. I'm Teresa Tomeo, along with Elena Rodriguez and Janet Morana. And in this episode of The Catholic View for Women, we are going to attempt to answer a question that we get a lot here on The Catholic View. How in the world do I go about finding a good Catholic doctor? And Janet, I could imagine that in your work with Priests for Life, because you do so much work with the medical community, this is a big issue.
It's huge. It's huge because, you know, there's Catholics out there who want to practice their faith, and they want a doctor who's not going to, even suggest abortion, but also contraception. Contraception, the pill especially, is huge. Very often, as you know, and we've covered this on shows in the past, these physicians want to prescribe the pill even for young girls who have acne, and they prescribe it for all kinds of things.
Even for a headache.
Yeah. And so, you know, parents are always looking like, where do I find those good Catholic doctors? Well, first of all, there's the Catholic Medical Association, and their website is cathmed.org. You can go there. That's one place. And then, of course, there's the Pope Paul VI Institute under Dr. Thomas Hilgers. And he has now trained over 500 physicians here, just in the United States alone, on naprotechnology and NFP and all that. And you can go to their website. And you know, the remarkable thing about Dr. Hilgers is it was St. John Paul II who actually turned to Hilgers decades ago and said, we need you doctors to come up with a good method for women to take care of them so that they're not shoved by these doctors, the birth control pill. And that's what he challenged Dr. Hilgers, and that's when Dr. Hilgers came about with the NFP program that he has, and also naprotechnology. And there's been, you go out to Omaha to where they're located, it's beautiful. I mean, the hallways are lined with bulletin boards of pictures of couples who thought they were infertile. And of course, instead of going down the bad against church teaching IVF road, they sought out a good naprotechnology doctor and were able to conceive naturally a beautiful child.
And they continue to train doctors in this method, correct?
Exactly. It continues on.
It's a continuing education.
Exactly. So if you know someone who's in medical school, this is a perfect place for them to go and get that extra training, and I highly recommend it.
We have several doctors in Michigan, including my OBGYN who studied under Dr. Hilgers, but there's a number of them, and they've been on my program. And what's so fascinating, and if you know anyone in the medical community out there, doctors are automatically told that, well, if you do this, if you go down this route, you're never going to have a practice. You're going to, you won't be able to keep yourself alive and survive, you know, on the pay, because no one will come to see you. Well, quite the opposite, has happened. They've had very successful practices because more and more people, and you both know this, we've all done stories on this. You've done this on Defending Life, I know, and you've covered this as well. We've talked about it at the March for Life, that there are more and more people coming into the church through natural family planning because they're environmentalists and they've heard about these things, or they're very concerned about their health, and so they don't want to put in all the chemicals and the hormones. And so they're coming to see these doctors because they want a real natural way of understanding their bodies. Right.
You know, and just like what you're saying, Teresa, you know, so many of the doctors that we come in contact with through Priests for Life have told us that those who have made that decision to not even have contraception in their practice, their practices are flourishing, unlike, like you just said, really, it's the secular world that makes them feel like you're going to lose patience, you know. But recently, you know, Teresa and I, we were in Washington, D.C. together for the March for Life, and there was a wonderful doctor there. Her name is Dr. Barbara Hartz Golder. She's the editor-in-chief for the Linacre Quarterly, which is the journal that's put out by the Catholic Medical Association. And we got a chance to chat with her about some of the struggles that good Catholic doctors are facing. So let's see what Barbara had to say.
Abortion is in fact an intrusion into that physician-patient relationship. And we're finding that physicians are increasingly pressured to do things against their conscience. The World Medical Association some years ago issued a statement about respecting life and respecting conscience in the provision of abortions in the world, but they're moving away from that, and now they are proposing a change that would say physicians must refer for abortions and must, if there's no one to refer them to, perform them. And that's a real issue. We can't afford to let that happen. We're seeing increasing pressure on physicians to do things that they wouldn't otherwise do because their conscience would prohibit it, and we need to be aware of that. And that's another piece. It's sort of an end run around the things that we do here at the March for Life. So if we can't talk about how bad abortion is, and if we're forced to talk about how good abortion is, which it isn't, then the physician-patient relationship gets skewed, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. The conscience is the meeting place of a person and God, and it really ought to be sacrosanct. We're finding that conscience is increasingly being assaulted. Recently, there was an Amish family that was forced to connect to a sewer against their religious beliefs because the court decided they weren't good enough Amish, that they didn't practice their faith well enough to claim that this would offend their religious beliefs. When we get into territory like that, we're in real trouble. So I think that having a division that says on the highest levels of government, we won't accept this is important. That being said, that can always be reversed by a subsequent administration. So I think one of the things we have to do is have a longer game in mind about how we're going to see that those protections stay established no matter who's in the White House. Catholic Medical Association, I just came back from their winter board meeting, and those are physicians who are on the front lines of this, and it's very inspiring to talk to them. These are physicians who take their pro-life commitment seriously and who are also on the front lines of being oppressed by some of these regulations and some of these practices. One physician, for example, decided after a long period of discernment and conversion, continuing conversion, that he could no longer offer contraception in his practice. And the day he announced that to his partners, they cut his salary by a third. And these are guys and women who are on the front lines of all of this, and they're both inspiring and they're very courageous and dedicated. So yes, they're out there. We're not hearing it in the larger public square, because the media isn't particularly interested in those stories, but they're there. Women are being made aware that the ways in which they've been treated are not good for their health. If you suppress, for example, ovulation like oral contraception does, you're basically disrupting a woman's body functions. And we now have a generation of women who are very aware of the natural way of doing things. And so religious or not, they're being attracted to these practices. And that provides a new way of evangelization as well, I think.
I can only imagine the pressure that doctors like Barbara go through in terms of
Right.
when they announce that they're going to not prescribe birth control or not be pressured to do the things that go against their faith. This is happening more and more. That's why the Catholic Medical Association is such a good resource
That's
for
right.
people.
And one of the things Dr. Golder asked us to do, ask our viewers to do, if your doctor, Catholic doctor, is not a member of the Medical Association, would you please be an ambassador and tell them about it? Because it's like strength in numbers. And they have, like I said, that beautiful quarterly journal they do. And this is all things to help strengthen them. And they become a bigger force. Because, you know, the other big issue, ladies, right now, and I know we're dealing with this a lot with people who contact us at Priests for Life, is the conscience rights. It's huge right now. Now, the good news is in some states, handful, they have passed some good conscience right protection laws for doctors, but it's a huge battle because the other side, they want to make it like forcing. First of all, it starts in medical school now. Do you know how many medical schools now you have to learn how to do an abortion? I mean, that's part of I forget what year in their training it is, but they're making it automatic. And good Catholic, medical students have to push back and say, matter of conscience, I won't do this. And it's becoming more and more prevalent.
Isn't it interesting, because I know you've told us this, and when you're on my show, and you're on with me about once a month or twice a month, aren't there a lot of doctors who are backing away from abortions now? Because aren't they scraping the bottom of the barrel when they come to using the doctors actually doing abortions? It's the lowest of the low.
The qualifications.
The qualifications on the totem pole.
Absolutely. The doctors who perform abortions at abortion clinics are what we call the bottom rung of the medical profession. If you look them up or Google their names, many of them have lost their licenses in one state, so then they go on to another state.
They're facing all kinds of health violations and things like that. Yeah,
exactly. And especially the doctors that are still out there doing late-term abortions. I mean, people don't realize this is happening, but I'm sorry. We have investigated this. In over 15 states, we have investigated and found late-term abortion is happening in those states. And those doctors, I think the only way you can do a late-term abortion is you have totally dehumanized the child and yourself by killing that child late-term. And so it's huge. And like I said, they're the bottom of the medical profession. They really are.
So then why the pressure? Is it because there's so few, because so many abortion mills are closing? We have more pregnancy resource centers in the country now than we do abortion mills.
Yeah.
Is it because there aren't enough of those abortion doctors? Is that why there's that pressure in medical school to train them?
Well, absolutely. they are running out of. I mean, some of these doctors that are still doing abortions are in their 70s. I mean, and there's one that just recently quit the industry, you know, and said, okay, I can't do abortions. He was like 82. So they're elderly. Can you imagine? Would you go have an operation by someone who was 80 years old with their hands and maybe shaking a little bit still? But yet, this is the quality that's in abortion clinics. And so, you know, they're running out of doctors, and so therefore trying to push and mandate in medical school is huge. And it's been going on for a very long time, this push for abortion in medical school. Matter of fact, when I was back in New York, my OBGYN there told me of a story back when he went to medical school, which was in the 80s, and how he had to take a stand in New York State. When I forget the name of the medical school he went to, they were going to force him to participate and practice and see what an abortion was when he was in medical school. And he said, I'm sorry, I refuse to do that. And his uncle was also an OBGYN practicing doctor, so his uncle was encouraging him, yes, stand up, stand up. And he ran to the head of the school and said, I will quit medical school before I will do one abortion. And he won. They didn't kick him out of school. They allowed him, but that was back in the 80s. But now the pressure is huge, huge on these medical students. And, you know, it becomes more and more difficult for them to get through school. And that's why the conscience right laws that they're passing state by state is so important. And I know President Trump has promised to try to do as much as he can in his executive office with conscience rights.
But Janet, it seems like it is a very organized effort, and it's not just one isolated medical school pushing down abortion.
It's part of the culture.
Who is at the I would say at the head of this organization, but it probably should be at the bottom because they act in the hidden, in the obscure. Who is organizing it?
It's all of them. It's from Planned Parenthood to NARAL to George Soros. I mean, you just follow the money trail. It's all of them, all the, what I call the abortion lovers club. There's not an abortion they don't like. And so therefore they're trying to protect, you know, getting more doctors out there. The other avenue they're going in, of course, is the RU46.
Because there aren't enough doctors.
Of course, there aren't enough doctors to do surgical abortions. The problem with RU46, though, they're only supposed to use it up till 9 weeks. And therefore, a lot of women are still on the fence about whether to have an abortion or not, and they're just saying, waiting and waiting, and now, well, after 9 weeks, you can't use RU46. So you're still going to need doctors willing to go against medical ethics there and destroy the child.
I think the original question that we're asking, how to find a good Catholic doctor, we have to make people understand that, because this is something I think that I had to learn. There are a lot of doctors that are Catholic, but they're not practicing their faith when it comes to their profession. So
exactly.
Just because your doctor may be
practicing
in the
Catholic,
church doesn't necessarily mean he or she is true to the faith. So it's important, even if, as Dr. Barbara said, to let people know, let these doctors know about the Catholic Medical Association, because you're witnessing to them in more ways than one.
Exactly.
It'll be an opportunity. And I remember the story, was it Dr. Levantino whose patient would come in, and she knew that he was performing abortions, and that she just kept talking to him and saying, I'm praying for you, and
yeah, she was incredible. And Dr. Levantino tells us in his conversion story, to walking out of, he had 2 other partners in upstate New York, and he actually went into his 2 partners one day and said, well, if it means we have to part ways, we part ways, but I cannot do another abortion. But this patient, she continued, some people will say, I'm not going to go to that doctor because he does abortions, but she was praying for him. She would send him special birthday cards. She knew when him and his wife had their wedding anniversary. She'd send anniversary cards, Christmas cards. She used every opportunity to reach out to him in a loving, kind way. And of course, tragically for Dr. Levantino is the death of his own child in a tragic car accident. She was hit by a car that led him to walk away from the abortion industry, because after losing his child, he just couldn't destroy the life of another baby.
And hasn't he testified before Congress?
Yes, he's testified before Congress. He's actually one of the medical advisors for us at Priests for Life, to oversee, when we do our Defending Life programs, that we're saying all the correct terminology, we're doing everything correctly. So there's one of many doctors who have converted from becoming abortionists to saying, I cannot, do this any longer.
So cathmed.org, but we'll continue the discussion on finding a good Catholic doctor, and we mean Catholic, not just Catholic in name only. We'll be right back on the Catholic View for Women. Thanks for watching, but don't go away. We've got much more coming up. We're helping you find good Catholic doctors. Welcome back to the Catholic View for Women. I'm Teresa Tomeo, along with my co-hosts, Elena Rodriguez and Janet Morana. And Janet is a wealth of information on this topic, and talking during the break that really you live, breathe, and you're just surrounded by all this information, trying to work with good Catholic doctors.
And, you know, I would say, Teresa, the number one question we get all the time at Priest for Life through our emails and phone calls is, help us find good Catholic doctors. So on our website, we have a special page, priestforlife.org/doctors. You can go there, and we have links to CathMed and all the other resources that we've been mentioning at that. It's kind of like one-stop shopping to go through and try to find the doctors.
And we also have some scripture quotes. I love to look at the word Bible as an acronym, basic instructions before leaving earth. And so there's always something we can find in the Word of God to encourage us and to inspire us, even when it comes to doctors and medicine. Elena has a quote, correct, from the Old Testament?
Wisdom in Scripture from the book of Sirach, chapter 38. Starting with verse 1, it says, "Hold the physician in honor, for he is essential to you, and God, it was who established his profession. From God the doctor has his wisdom, and the king provides for his sustenance. His knowledge makes the doctor distinguished and gives him access to those in authority. My son, when you are ill, delay not, but pray to God who will heal you. Then give the doctor his place, lest he leave, for you need him too. There are times that give him an advantage, and he too beseeches God that his diagnosis may be correct and his treatment bring about a cure." From the book of Sirach.
That's beautiful. That is really, really beautiful. And then there's this great quote that we have, Janet, that you found from an address that now, of course, St. Pope John Paul II gave back in 1980 to 2 congresses of physicians and surgeons. So this is really powerful. "You must commit yourselves to a repersonalization of medicine. This means adopting a more unitary view of the patient and then establishing a more fully human relationship with him or her. But by this last, I mean a relationship that respects the connection between the psychoaffective realm and the suffering body. The relation between doctor and patient must once again be based on a dialogue that involves listening, respect, and concern. It must become again an authentic encounter of 2 free human beings, or as it has been put, between trust and conscience. This kind of relationship will enable the sick to feel they are being seen for what they really are. Individuals who have difficulty using their own bodies and developing their own powers, but who all the while retain intact the innermost essence of their humanity, and whose right to truth and the good on both the human and the religious levels is to be respected. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I propose these reflections, I think spontaneously of Christ's words, 'I was ill, and you comforted me.' What a stimulus to this desired personalization of medicine can be found in Christian charity, which causes us to see in the face of every sick person the adorable face of the great mysterious patient who continues to suffer in those to whom you give your prudent and beneficent and professional help." This is so beautiful. And I think about where he's talking about the respect to have for the patient. How many times have you heard, and I've gone through this before, where the doctors have the worst bedside manners, and they don't want to hear any challenges. They don't want to hear any discussions, and I'm sure they're stretched in a million different directions, pulled in, and there's a lot of pressure on them, and because stress and everything else. But even we see this at the end of life, or with the terminally ill, where there is just okay, they're done now. We don't need to work with them anymore. This coldness, and I think what's so beautiful about doctors who practice their faith, it just has a whole different demeanor.
Warmer
There's
feeling.
a warmth there.
Warmer feeling.
Yeah.
It is.
That comes across authentically.
Right.
Well, here's a hint. You know, I mean, when you looking for a new doctor and you find, say, one of the names of the doctors, and you go to the doctor for the first time, here's a good sign. When is the first time you're going to see that doctor? Is it going to be in the examining room or first in his office, where you sit with him behind the desk and he first talks to you? It should be that. You're a brand new patient. He knows nothing about you. It shouldn't be in the examining room.
Doesn't it drive you crazy when you hear politicians say that an abortion is a woman's choice between her and her doctor? Meanwhile, she doesn't see the doctor until the abortion.
Right. All the time.
How many are going into the Planned Parenthood facilities or the other abortion mills, sitting down and having a private consultation with the abortion doctor before they have?
They are not. They don't even know the name of the doctor. And you can know this by the testimonies of the women from Silent No More. Just go to silentnomore.com. Read and listen to the testimonies. They meet the doctor when they're on the operating table where they're about to perform the abortion. And most of the time, the doctors don't even make eye contact with them. Can you imagine that? destroying the life of your child, and you haven't even had a
cannot make
consultation.
yeah.
I mean, when you think about this, what operation do you have that you don't get a consultation ahead of time?
I broke my
sometimes-
toe about 15 years ago, and I went for 3 consultations, and it was outpatient surgery. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
My toe.
Right.
I mean, seriously? And yet, when you have an abortion, you just go right in and,
So in this scenario, it's all about defending the freedom of the patient. But when it comes to conscience and rights and protection of conscience rights for doctors, there's no protection of freedom.
Well, it's
How
because
contradictory is that?
yeah, the other side, like I said, the pressure is huge. They want more abortion, more contraception, everything under the sun, and so therefore they're attacking conscience rights. And so I have to applaud groups like Americans United for Life. They work closely with us at Priests for Life, and they're helping to craft model legislation in the states for conscience rights. They've gotten a few of them passed, and there's more to come. So there's hope, and just like even with the abortion pill reversal, the RU46 now can be reversed, and good Catholic doctors have created the protocols now, and there's abortionpillreversal.com is the website you can go to, and there's 24/7 information where someone will answer a phone. You have someone who changed their mind, they can get them to a good doctor who will now reverse that pill. So.
And even
Good
if you're not
news.
looking for a Catholic OBGYN, I would go to cathmed.org because you
Right.
want to support the Catholic physicians
That's
who are
right.
really doing and are trying to be true to their faith across the board, because the ethics in medicine
Right.
has to be there, not just in the area of women's care and OBGYN and pregnancy and women's health. So,
Exactly.
so really, really important. And I also think this quote here that John Paul II, the kind of relationship that will enable the sick to feel they are being seen for what they are, real individuals, persons.
Right.
Because I'm telling you, when it comes to the issue of birth control, forget about it. They don't want to hear anything. They think this is what you have to do, some of these doctors. There's no
Exactly.
ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, and if you are going to a doctor that is still, Catholic doctor that maybe is still prescribing the pill, this could be just like that one woman influenced Dr. Levatino. You could be an influence to that doctor. Tell them about the Catholic Medical Association and challenge that doctor to really, in his practice, live out his Catholic faith.
Right.
100%.
And don't be afraid to do it either.
And don't be
because
afraid
you
to
never
do
know the
it.
impact you're going to have.
Exactly.
Homework, teacher.
Homework time, homework time. And of course, number one, we've been talking about this all during the show. Visit the Catholic Medical Association website, which is catholicmed.org. Highly recommend that. Number two, check out priestforlife.org/doctors, and you'll find doctors there in your area. And I suggest that you use this also on social media. Social media is a great way of getting the word out about both of these websites for people who are looking for these doctors. And of course, number three, go to thecatholicwomen.com for more information. Sign up for our e-letter. All our homework is up there with all the links from all prior programs. And after the seasons have aired, we also have the prior seasons up on that website for you to look at. And finally, like us, the Catholic View for Women on Facebook. And I can't be remiss but to remind everyone about keeping the holy reminders around, like our patroness for this series, the Kitchen Madonna, available at the EWTN Religious Catalog.
And I like this version. This is like this bronze.
bronze
It's so
one.
pretty. Yeah.
There's two colors.
Yes, yes. We're all about accessorizing, and Our
That's
Lady
right.
is helping us do that.
Exactly.
Well, this is a really, really good discussion. I think it's a really important one, too.
Right.
Do not be afraid, as John Paul II said, be not afraid to ask questions and look for and support good Catholic doctors. Thanks for tuning in to the Catholic View for Women once again. I'm Teresa Tomeo on behalf of my wonderful co-hosts, Janet Morana and Elena Rodriguez. We hope to see you next time on the Catholic View.